Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the talk show and podcast where we have digital discussions, worlds of TV, film, pop culture, sports, lifestyle, news, everything really depending on the guest. We really talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. And you, of course, have recently recognized my guest from Jupiter's Legacy, dropping on Netflix. Ian Quinlan is with us. Ian, welcome to Popternative.
Hey, thank you, Peter Beats. What's happening, man?
It's good. I mean, a little show just dropped on Netflix a couple last week. Nothing crazy.
I think I saw that. Yeah, it's Jupiter's Legacy. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Congrats with the reception so far, man. It's awesome to see. Seriously.
Yeah, it's really surreal. Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. I can't believe it's actually here. You know, after all this time.
But I'm curious, and you might even say like it still hasn't hit you, but this show is big scale. This show is massive. Like what it looks like. Yeah. When did it hit you? Like, wow, this is a big scale show. While you're reading the script, while you were filming it, while you saw the playback, is there a time where it actually like hit you? Like how big scale it was?
Yeah, you know, I think it was I got flown up for a costume fitting maybe like 2 weeks before I was supposed to shoot, and they drove me from the airport, and then they took me to, because it was literally like, they said come up for a couple hours and then go home. So it was like 2 hours on for a costume fitting, and then they drove me onto the lot, and then it's like the costume department was one big studio warehouse, just like full of racks, and then you're seeing the superhero uniforms, which are like incredibly articulate and detailed and so specific and beautiful. And I was like, oh, like it looked like a museum for costumes. I was like, oh, this is legit. We're here. We've arrived.
I know. It's crazy. And, you know, Hutch and the Hutchie gang or whatever, you have a squad. And I don't know if there's an official name for the squad yet, but it's the crew. And you all are amazing. Little bit of like an interesting thing going on because a lot of people can pin your character and the crew as like the villains, the bad guys. But there's a little bit of like an anti-hero thing, a misunderstood thing going on here as well. You see that too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That also speaks to the name that we can't come up with, the official name. Like, so I defer to the audience, whatever they want to call us. But I mean, I think personally, and I talked to the gang about it. Like, I think in the story, they don't have a name. I think that's the point of being anti the union. Like, why did they call themselves a union? Did anybody ask them what their name was? Like who? And so I think that's their sort of anti-establishment side. That like there's a whole value system and a whole belief system that these people represent that Hutch, you know, Neutrino Jack and Shockwave don't subscribe to, and they're about a whole other thing. And yeah. I think they're very, yeah.
The show does a really good job at these interesting kind of relationships and character development between different characters, and a lot's kind of going on. When you were reading the script for this, is that something you noticed as well, the growth and the interesting dynamics and complexity of a lot of these characters? Because yeah, people talk about the big superhero aspect of it. I think the character development is huge here.
Yeah, I think it's so rich. That's what I loved about it so much. It's like, you see Matt Lanter, who plays Sky Fox, go from being the great Gatsby, essentially, to the world's supposed greatest supervillain, who also ends up having this child of color. Like, you know, how does that happen? How does that guy get from there to there? With like when he literally was surrounded by like no people of color, you know? You watch like the Utopian, which I think Josh is doing a phenomenal job. I really like his scene. No, like spoiler alert when he goes to therapy.
Yeah.
It's like you see this superhero, like the real in-depth look into this character of like what it's like to try to save the world every day and like how to do your best. Kind of reminded me of like, you ever read Sentry?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. It's like I have to make these crazy decisions about going to save a comet from hitting the Earth versus like working on my relationship with my wife.
I had friends really into Sentry. I had friends that were really into that.
Yeah. Oh man, I loved it. I thought that was so cool. And then like his villain is super awesome too. Yeah, and I think it's just like you see these people, all of these characters are really struggling with like, excuse me, where they want to be and whether as they're trying to like live out in this world that's also sort of not looking to be saved anymore, which is sort of really interesting. It's like, what is the point of a superhero if nobody wants to be rescued?
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of hit it perfectly. It becomes more than just this like big scale superhero show where there's like, I just loved like just like little conversations between the characters, like your character and Elena's character, like just little things like that don't seem to be like the big things that make you think, but it's like that's what I loved about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, you really get these characters in this history of like I love the bar scene with my friends where we're talking about Jack's van and my relationship, and like, or like the Genesis conversation of like, are you breaking up with us? Are you? It always feels like that's a real relationship because we're always like, I want to know that we're exclusive, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll get back to Jupiter's Legacy. I just have one general Ian Quinlan question for you. I mean, storytelling and acting and everything. I just wanted to know. I was curious. When did that kind of all start for you? Like, when did you think no, that was something you wanted to do, man?
Yeah. So I was a child actor when I was a kid growing up in New York. I was in The Lion King on Broadway, and I was in Music of the Heart with Meryl Streep. And then when I was doing it in high school, actually, there was one theater teacher who was like, do you want to be an actor or do you want to be an artist? And I was like, what's the difference? I don't know. And then that got me into thinking about like, this is a craft about like, craft. This is an art form about like, human beings and relating to human people and making them feel seen and heard, which I was like, I think that's just such a super cool thing. And to the antihero point, like you're going to watch Hutch do some wild, crazy things, but they're all for a very solid reason that we will come to find, and I think it's like, my job is to advocate and explain him so people can see him, and I think that's like a really fun role I get to play.
Absolutely. It's interesting too, because, there's like, it's funny because they said you want to be an artist or an actor. And then there's like literally what you actually do and what a lot of people do. And it even goes beyond just actors, is storytellers. Like that I feel like is the perfect thing. Like you're a storyteller. That's like what you do.
Yeah, right. Exactly. In all forms of it, trying to tell a story in like, whether that be acting or directing, writing, like trying to produce, like, which is the dream one day, to kind of become a storytelling factory.
Oh man, that was like my next question. My next question literally was, a lot of people gravitate towards wearing other hats as well down the road, right? Acting is something you focus on, but you want to maybe do other things and kind of write, direct, and produce and do that stuff as well?
Yeah. I've directed a little bit back in the day, and then I've like mostly theater, and then I've been writing some stuff in my own time, especially during COVID. I had a lot to do, and then the dream is also to produce, like kind of be a dream machine, basically, like working and collaborating with other people and being like, what, do you have a script? Like, let me help you put it together no matter what. I just like being part of the team.
The geek comic book nerd culture has always, like, for a while now, has been taking over. Like, it's huge. It's massive. People love it.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a boom, and easily, even a bit before the pandemic, I've seen a boom where it exploded about like 5 years ago. I feel like 5 years, like it's been for 5 years now, like at another level with all the Marvel stuff and DC. Like it's just been crazy. What I find really exciting too about Jupiter's Legacy is this is like a, graphic novel, comic book, not part of the traditional like superheroes that people know about. That's what excites me about that. Did that excite you as well when you were kind of on this script? I mean, like no one knows, so it's like a unique situation you're in as like working on a comic book project.
Yeah, I love this project. I love it a lot. Like it's got a little bit of things that we've seen before, plus some stuff that we've never seen. So like when I first read it, it reminded me of the X-Men, the James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender X-Men, where we're going through the decades and seeing how mutants like played a part in all of that.
Oh yeah, New Class, cool. Future Past.
Yeah, Days of Future Past, And then what I loved about this though is that you don't walk in with any pre-existing knowledge because you've never met these superheroes before.
Yep.
So we're getting a whole new origin story. We're getting a whole new set of heroes, what they're about, what their value systems are, who they are as people, which makes for the perfect catalyst, as you were saying, like learning about their personal lives, because like we don't know there's no Peter Parker. There's no Bruce Wayne.
No.
There's no Uncle Ben for us to remember, oh, this is why they're making these choices. It's like we're meeting them from the start. Fresh new take on fresh new heroes.
But it's funny because I feel like with Utopian and like I think like Josh and Matt, like George, like they do such a good job. It's like you feel like you've known like about these superheroes forever after watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, like they're really personable. They're really lovely. You can tell, you know what I mean? I think it's so cool to like watch that happen. It's and Ben, Matt, and Josh, Leslie, Mike, they're all doing a fantastic job. You meet these really cool people, and you're like, oh, like you kind of fall right into the family dynamic from the jump.
Are you getting away from the acting stuff? Are you a big fan of like the graphic novels, the comic books? Like, were you into that growing up as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I did. I read a lot, especially like I read a lot of Mark stuff. I was like, I was big into the whole Ultimates, the Authority. I was into like Civil War. I thought was super brilliant. I thought that was super cool. I even picked up the issues where he had these two journalists covering the Civil War, and like it was literally just a comic book about them like meeting at a diner and like talking about the whole thing. And I was like, this is awesome. I was like, this is just a whole cool side movie that should just happen somewhere. So I was big into this, and like I said, like Century I was reading, and what was the other one? I was always big into X-Men too.
Did you ever read, because I was excited because I bet it was one of those things, like there's so much news, right, about like entertainment, pop culture, right, that like you sometimes forget about it and stuff, but like I remember like I read Jeff Lemire's Sweet Tooth, and they're making a Netflix adaptation of it.
Really?
Yeah, which is amazing, about the hybrid Dear Boy Gus and everything. Will Forte is going to be in it. Yeah, and Robert Downey Jr. is executive producing it, based on the DC comic, and it's going to be on Netflix. But it excites me, right? Like it goes back with Jupiter's Legacy, Sweet Tooth. These are like people are going to be able to kind of like be exposed like on a global stage on Netflix, and then go back and read the material, because the material is so good. You know what I mean? Yeah,
you know, and get like a detailed look into all of it, and like I'm excited for Requiem as soon as that comes out in June.
Oh yeah. There's so much good stuff out there. It's such an exciting time for that, the geek comic book fan. Like it's like huge.
You know, it's like growing up, people were always like, "Why do you read those?" I was like, "Trust me." And then the Marvel movies started kicking off, and they were like, "This is amazing." And I was like, "I was reading this 10 years ago." You know what I mean? It's like, catch up.
Absolutely, Ian. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh man, thanks for having me. This was such a blast. I really appreciate you.
So Jupiter's Legacy is streaming now on Netflix. If you haven't been able to watch it yet, go see it. But a lot of people on my end, like friends wise and family wise, have just been loving it. It was #1 on Netflix so quick. So congrats about that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm really excited about that. It's like hopefully stay #1 for a while.
And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
I am on Instagram. I am at All I Do Is Quinn.
Great handle. That's amazing.
Thank you very much.
So good. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, be sure to catch Ian Quinlan as Hutch in Jupiter's Legacy, available now on Netflix. Until next time, this is Ian Quinlan and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.